It was a quiet Sunday morning in June 1912 in the small town of Villisca, Iowa, a town where everyone knew their neighbors, where doors were left unlocked, and life moved slowly and predictably. The streets were empty in the early hours, the air still and calm. Yet inside one modest home, an unimaginable horror awaited. Josiah Moore, a devoted husband and father, lived there with his wife Sarah and their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul. They were ordinary, hard-working people, respected in their community. On this fateful night, 2 children from a neighboring family, the Stillingers, were staying over, making 8 people asleep in the house when tragedy struck. By morning, the town would be confronted with a crime so brutal, so precise, that it would shock not only the residents of Villisca, but the entire nation. Neighbors noticed the silence first, a silence that was unusual, almost unnatural. No laughter, no footsteps, no signs of life from the Moore home. Concerned, a neighbor entered the house only to be confronted with a scene of unspeakable horror. Every member of the Moore family, along with the visiting Stillinger children, had been bludgeoned to death with an axe. Faces were battered, bodies cold and still. The same axe was used in every room, and it was left behind, bloodied but carefully placed. Remarkably, the killer had washed their hands, leaving virtually no trace of evidence. There were no signs of forced entry, no note, no message, nothing to explain why or how this crime was committed. The meticulous planning and chilling calm suggested a calculating mind, someone who could strike without hesitation and leave no trace. It was as if the house itself had been transformed into a stage, and the murderer had performed a grim act, then vanished without a sound. The Moore home, once filled with laughter and warmth, had become a silent, ominous monument to violence. Neighbors and town members were horrified. How could such a tragedy happen in their small, quiet town? How could a family, respected and innocent, fall victim to such a calculated attack? Police arrived swiftly, but they were ill-equipped to handle a crime of this magnitude. Investigators combed the house for evidence, took photographs, and mapped the scene, but leads were scarce. Witness statements conflicted, and the local police force lacked the forensic tools that modern investigators take for granted. It quickly became clear that solving this crime would be no easy task. Suspects began to emerge almost immediately. Among the most notable was Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher who had been in Villisca at the time. He was questioned and eventually tried twice, yet acquitted both times. Other potential suspects included traveling strangers, local individuals with grudges, and even people whose motives were never fully understood. Every suspect brought with them new questions, but no definitive answers. Meanwhile, newspapers across the country sensationalized the story. Headlines screamed of the Moore family massacre, detailing the violence with chilling precision. Photographs of the home and crime scene were published, each one deepening the public's horror and fascination. Reporters debated motives, speculated on suspects, and chronicled the town's grief. But still, no one was convicted, and the case grew colder with each passing day. Theories about the crime abound even today. Some believe it was an act of revenge, perhaps against the Moore family themselves or against someone associated with them. Others suggest the possibility of a wandering serial killer, carefully selecting victims to satisfy a dark compulsion. Still, some experts propose that the perpetrator was someone entirely unsuspected, hiding in plain sight among the townspeople. Each theory presents new possibilities, yet each leaves more questions than answers. The methodical nature of the attack only deepens the mystery. Why choose this house at this time with such precision? Why spare no one, and yet leave the axe behind? And why vanish without a trace? These questions have haunted investigators, amateur sleuths, and true crime enthusiasts for over a century. Amateur historians and modern investigators continue to revisit the case. Some have re-examined evidence, others have explored the backgrounds of suspects. But the more the case is studied, the more it seems to defy understanding. Some believe that the house itself retains memories of that night, secrets embedded in its walls, whispering of events that no one will ever fully uncover. The human element cannot be overlooked. The Moore family were not just names in a newspaper, they were a mother and father, children with futures stolen in a single night. The impact on the town was profound. Grief, fear, and suspicion took root, and the community would never be the same. The streets of Villisca, once familiar and safe, became a landscape of dread. Imagine being a resident of Villisca that Sunday morning. How would you react? What would you have done upon entering that house? Could you have identified the killer where the police failed? These questions linger because the crime was executed with such care and secrecy that answers remain elusive. Even today, more than a century later, the Villisca axe murders continue to captivate those fascinated by the darker side of human nature. The combination of innocence destroyed, meticulous planning, and an unsolved outcome creates a story that is both horrifying and endlessly intriguing. Theories continue to circulate. Some claim the attack was linked to a local feud, while others suspect a serial predator moving silently through towns, leaving chaos behind. There are even those who suggest supernatural elements, though evidence is absent. Each possibility contributes to the enduring mystery, ensuring the story remains part of American true crime history. The Villisca axe murders are not just about a crime. They are about fear, suspicion, and the realization that evil can exist quietly, unnoticed, even in the most ordinary of places. Every brick of the Moore house, every shadow in its rooms, tells a story that has yet to be fully understood. This story reminds us that history is often shaped not just by the events themselves, but by the questions that remain unanswered. And the Villisca axe murders leave questions that time has not yet solved. If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories, unsolved mysteries, and dark tales from history, subscribe to SilentCase Archives. Every story we tell is researched, carefully crafted, and designed to leave you questioning what really happened when the lights went out. Unsolved, unseen, uncovered,